Welcome back to the Plaquemines Pulse. We're here to inspire, include, and inform you. We're here to inform you about the happenings in the parish, from council meetings to zoning board meetings, coastal management meetings, school board meetings, and any other public meeting that may affect your way of life. We will include you in each show through emails, tweets, letters, or Facebook posts. We hope to inspire you to participate in your community and in our parish with your ideas, your concerns, and your voice for change. I'm Michelle Wilcox. And this is Kathleen Becknell-Burmaster. We'd like to welcome her to the show. She's been helping for some time behind the scenes, and tonight we have her on board in front of the camera. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Kathleen.
I'm a lifelong resident of Plaquemines Parish. I currently reside on the East Bank. I'm watching all the activities happening on the East Bank and the West Bank.
And you were employed with the parish for...
I was employed with the parish for approximately 20 years. I started out in the finance department and moved on up to the administrative assistant to the parish president. At that time was Lou Petrovich.
And you retired in 1991.
Yes.
Well, Kathleen, we had 5 special meetings in between the council meeting and this week. We've been very busy. I know y'all been to one end of the parish, I went to the other end, so we've had these meetings. The meeting that I went to was the public meeting for the Shrimpers Association that was held at the auditorium here in Belchase. The National Marine Fisheries Service discussed requiring turtle excluder devices, which are the TEDs, for all shrimp boats that fish within skimmer trawls. Shrimpers say that they should should the TED device proposal go into effect, it will add more financial burden to them, more than that they already have because of the imported shrimp. So they really don't want this to be a rule, or they don't really call it a law, but a rule. So right now what they did was they got together and they're protesting or starting a petition. So they had people that came and signed up, and it was quite a bit of people. I got there a little late and it was still packed. But they had some good questions. They had a presentation, and they did hand out the information on signing against the TEDs being required on your boat. So hopefully that won't affect them financially, but you know, we'll follow the story and see what happens with that. And give us the update on former Sheriff Jeff Hingle.
Well, a few days ago, Michelle, as we all know, our past sheriff, Jeff Hingle, pleaded guilty in a robbery case.
Correct.
However, the prosecutors requested a delay because our ex-sheriff is cooperating with the ongoing investigation. So his new sentence date now is October the 3rd.
Okay, so not in June any longer.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we'll follow that and see what happens. And the next story that we have was from District 1, where Kathleen is from, in Braithwaite. And that was a special meeting called by P.V. Griffith.
Correct. Our District 1 councilman. The meeting was held on May 15th down at the Reverend Percy M. Griffin Center in Davient. And we had about 100 people there, Michelle. That was a good turnout.
That is a good turnout.
Right. And the first thing on the agenda for the night was Providence Engineering of Baton Rouge was giving us an analysis, or has been conducting an analysis, I should say, on the old courthouse in Port-Newahash. What was,
right,
you know, the structural damage, any kind of other problems that we might have. And of course, you know, we're talking about since pre-Katrina, really, when the fire came in 2002, I believe. Anyway, they concluded that they found large amounts of lead paint, asbestos, electronic waste, and feces all over the area. And many questions were indeed asked about the condition of the old structure and just what is going to happen. So this company, Providence Engineering, informed that they are about 60% complete with their analysis. And of course, some of the people in the audience are saying, where are we going to get the money? Well, Councilman Griffin stated that previous Councilman Don Beshel did indeed allocate about $3+ million for rebuilding our courthouse at our county seat, which is in Point Lahash.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an encouraging note. And they promised, Province did, that in about 30 days they're going to be complete with their study. They have about 40% more work to do. But when some people in the audience were a little upset with the delays because they want the courthouse rebuilt now.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people were saying, well, what are we doing constantly analyzing and studying and so forth and so on. So there, all of a sudden, a group of people in the audience started screaming, literally screaming, tear it down.
Costs less to tear that junk down and build a new one than to try to renovate. So, we just sit here and just bullshit all in here, tear it down, build a new one.
Let me ask you a question. We can settle this tonight. By the show of hands. How many of you all want to tear it down?
Tear it down! You're wasting too much money on that.
So what?
Wasting money.
Okay, this is what I'm going to do.
And time.
A discussion was also held, Michelle, in reference to the temporary trailers that's supposed to be placed on the courthouse property down in Point Lahash, where the council holds their twice-a-month meetings. And so we were informed, the audience was informed, that an inspection of all the trailers that were available, which were located in Home Place, would be taking place on May 17th. However, at our airing, there's been no trailer selection, no delivery, and no setup.
I don't know. So why don't they take the trailer that we're using for the courthouse now, since that belongs to the council, and move it to the seat?
That's a very good idea.
Just a thought.
Probably we'll present that at the Thursday council meeting. Well, anyway, the item about the trailer, the thing that disturbs me is that it was on the agenda for several times. Byron Miranovich, our chairman, at the May 10th council meeting said, if indeed Mr. Nungesser did not provide and present those trailers and put them in place at the courthouse in Point Lahash, then he was going to order the council attorneys to proceed with a mandamus. Well, when it came up on May 24th, what happened is Byron Miranovich defers the item. So again, no
what's
action.
the point of deferring a mandamus? Because if it wasn't done, then action needs to be taken.
Precisely.
Okay.
And if Mr. Nungesser himself has quoted in many of his clippings as parish president when he was running for his second term, and also when he was running for lieutenant governor. If it passes and the people want the courthouse returned, within 30 days he was going to proceed with the work.
It's been years.
It has. So then the other thing that's a really sticky subject for everybody is the erratic ferry schedule. And that presents a problem for everybody. Not only for day-to-day needs, but also for emergencies.
Correct.
But the reason that we were given is the ferry schedule is erratic because we have a lack of qualified engineers. So, that item was very well discussed and not too very well received by the audience because nobody wants to sit in a hot ferry boat line waiting for a ferry. Then the other matter was the ditches that we need dug throughout our parish.
Correct.
And they either need to be dug or swept out. The audience was also updated about aerial mosquito spraying, a new waterline project, and highway lighting project. The parish grant administrator, Benny Puckett, was present, and he discussed the Community for Plaquemines Recovery, also known as CPR, of which he happens to be the committee president. Mr. Puckett advised that there is approximately $8 million of grant money for 65 to 100 homes to be built in our parish, beginning on the East Bank and the lower end of Plaquemines. Mr. Puckett then introduced his pastor and Project Happy contractor, Mr. Jim Woodard, who's also a pastor contractor. And he advised at the meeting, the attendees at the meeting, he explained the terms of the program. There was also an informational meeting at about the Happy Housing Program, which was held in Port Sulphur in May of 2012. If anyone has any questions, please contact the Committee for Plaquemines Recovery at 504-564-0309, info@cprrebuilds.org, or www.cprrebuilds.org.
I think that's going to be on the screen too, Kathleen. So if you didn't get it, it will be on the screen behind us.
Oh, thanks.
Okay?
And also, another interesting thing is if you want to submit an application, you need to go to the Family Resources of New Orleans, which is located at 1112 Engineers Road, Suite 4 in Belchase. Their phone number is 504 822 8519, or you can email them at 1m1frno@bellsouth.net.
And we'll also have that up on the behind us too.
Right, good. There was an additional discussions by Mr. Councilman Griffin regarding the East Bank Mud Program, which we will focus on in a later show, and the levy lawsuit filed by Melvin Burmaster against the parish. Mr. Burmaster was in attendance at this meeting, and Councilman Griffin invited anyone who wanted to speak with him to feel free to do so. Mr. Griffin ended the meeting by stating that anyone who wants to waste their time being stupid, he's moving forward. That the people on the East Bank are alive and well, and that they're going to make a difference. That they're going to do what they want to do, and he's sick and tired of the way people are treated on the East Bank. Mr. Griffin then admitted that he met with the Secretary of State about a month ago on how to incorporate the East Bank, and he was given direction on how to proceed with that matter. Councilman Griffin, and we're quoting this, that they, the council, think that I'm playing. Let them see. I'm giving them an opportunity to make it right, and I don't care who tell them. End of quote. Shortly after the community meeting, the Post was provided with an email from Councilman Griffin that stated he had a unanimous decision by those in attendance at the May 15, 2012 meeting that they wanted the old courthouse structure to be torn down and the process to build a new courthouse to begin as soon as possible.
What they fought so hard for was to have it rebuilt.
Precisely. And we had our reporter, of course, in attendance at the meeting, and we have an audio tape of that meeting. While there were screams and demands to tear down the courthouse, the vote was hardly unanimous. If anyone in our viewing audience would like a copy of Councilman Griffin's email or a copy of the audio of the meeting, contact us at info@plaquepost.com.
That's interesting. So they fought hard to save the courthouse, get it back over there, rebuild it, and then now PV is saying that, Mr. Councilman Griffin is saying that they were screaming to tear it down.
Right. But as we stated, Michelle, quite frankly, it wasn't a unanimous vote. And it was a few shouters in there that kind of like was leading the group. And I was really shocked. And it was very disappointing to see that, that type of situation took place. And, especially that the courthouse serves all of the people of Plaquemines Parish, just not the East Bank. And quite frankly, as a resident there, a lifelong resident of the parish, and living the majority of my life on the East Bank, I can tell you, the people want the courthouse back there. Mm-hmm. So it was just a handful of people making a bunch of noise.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. Okay, we had another special meeting that was held in the Burris Auditorium on May the 18th, 2012. It was to execute a contract with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the state of Louisiana for the construction of the Hurricane Protection Levee from Oakville to St. Jude, which was deferred and carried. Also, Kathleen, there was a special meeting held by the Plaquemines Parish Council. It was in the Burris Auditorium on May 18th, and it was to execute a contract between the Army Corps of Engineers and the Plaquemines Parish government, the state of Louisiana, for the construction of the hurricane levees protection from Oakville to St. Jude, which was deferred and carried over from the 510 council meeting. We had to have a special meeting. This was introduced by Councilman Marinovich. So that was done on the 18th.
Was that a unanimous adoption, or?
Yes, it was.
Oh, well, very good.
Yes. Another special meeting that was held, Kathleen, was in Port Sulphur on June the 5th at 6:30 p.m. This was an open house meeting format for discussion, and the discussion was on the widening of the highway of LA 23. It's to improve traffic operations along the highway. This is the portion of the highway that was not, the only portion that's not widened down there, from Happy Jack to Home Place. The need for this project is primarily related to economic development and hurricane evacuation, which we're in such need of. The protection, the project itself, the contractors were there explaining what they want, not explaining, but open format. They had maps you could view, discussion amongst one another, and basically what they said is that the project is still in the environmental planning stages and is nowhere near ready to begin construction. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on it. I'm sure they'll give us another update and let us know where they are as the project progresses.
Let's hope they proceed rather quickly with that. We're in hurricane season right now.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, the next meeting, Kathleen, that we're going to discuss is the Audit Committee meeting, which was held on May 29th of 2012 at the Council office on Avenue G, which is the old tomato shed. That's where the council is now. On the agenda, Mr. Peoples handed out the findings of the internal audit of employees that live in the parish and reside outside of the parish. So I'm going to let you give that report because this is very interesting. Well, before you give your numbers, let me say this. Right now, to date, we have 693 employees of the parish, and only 544 reside in Plaquemines Parish. So before I break it down, I'm going to let you give your numbers, and then we'll go back to that.
Well, Michelle, working with the Finance Department of Plaquemines Parish for a long time, of course, anything involving money, which everything involves money.
Exactly.
This is of great interest to me because Mr. Councilman Turner, who's a council member of District 6, but he's also the chairman for the Audit Committee, made a request of our internal auditor to break it down by years from 2007, 2008, all the way to currently of May 2012, to show just how many people actually were new hires. And of course, we all know, the process for new hires. You have to go through the civil service process and so forth and so on, and then selections are made. But the interesting thing to me is I broke it down by years, and it really is a great shocker to me with our economic situation here in Plaquemines Parish, and certainly we have people to fill these positions that are qualified that live in our parish.
Correct.
But in 2007, we had 12 people that lived outside the parish to fill job openings. In 2008, we had 20. In 2009, we had 12. In 2010, we had 23. 2011, we had 15, and so forth for this year, 2012, we've already had 6. And we're not even, so let's just say 1 per month out of towners being hired, and we're not even through with May, and that's only 5 months.
Correct.
So, altogether, 88 positions were people that lived outside of our parish. And I can tell you from the review of the documents that were presented to Mr. Turner, these are positions that certainly don't require you to have master's degrees and, brain surgeon degrees, whatever. I mean, this is positions that our local people are certainly qualified for.
Correct.
So it's a great shock to me, and, actually they were positions that were open and indeed budgeted. So why not try to deal with our people first and give them the opportunity to accept those positions? That
brings us to a very interesting point, because while I stopped, I want to break it down for you as the employees we have now.
Right.
The employees that do not live in Plaquemines Parish, 19 of them live in St. Bernard, 85 of them live in Jefferson Parish. St. Charles has 2 employees that live there. St. John has 1. Terrebonne Parish has 1. State of Mississippi has 1 employee. I mean, 1 person that lives there but is employed in Plaquemines Parish. Now the question is, how many of these parish employees have parish vehicles that they're taking outside of the parish?
That's very true.
And
that's happening, Michelle. And let me tell you what's happening. It really is a shocker to me, because I reviewed this list, and I can tell you there are people on here who are using Plaquemines Parish residential addresses,
but don't live here.
But they don't live here. And I mean, we're not talking about it with somebody that was just hired yesterday. The list I gave you with the 88 people, that reflected only the new hires.
Correct.
That list there that you just read off those numbers, I mean, that is really scary.
It is.
It's really scary. And the other thing is that, people are being deceitful about where they live to imply that they're employees of Plaquemines Parish government, which they are, but that they are stating that they live in the parish when indeed they don't. And some of them, from name recognition, I noticed, they never did live here.
Right.
So, I can understand people, kind of like relocated as, homes were lost for Katrina and other storms that we've had, and, they just decided to relocate someplace else. That's almost like acceptable.
But we have people here in our parish,
That's
like
right.
you said, who are qualified for these positions and who are looking for work. And it's amazing because people will say, they went and filled out an application for civil service and they never seem to get on.
No.
But yet we have, 544 employees out of 693 that live in the parish and the rest do not. And then in the years prior, we have those numbers as well. There are people here looking for work, and that's what we're trying to bring about. We want, we want a change, and we want our people to have jobs. We need to take care of our community first.
What was that total again, Michelle?
It's
600?
693 employees and 544 reside in the parish.
Okay, so that's like 155
Yeah.
people outside.
Outside the parish, that's
And that
correct.
one from Mississippi is really a killer. I mean, I just
From a
can't
different
understand
state.
that we have to deal with somebody, hire somebody that lives outside of our state. And I looked at that position for that person, and I can assure you that we have people qualified here to fill that position. So
That's
it's
something that
very
they-
disheartening. A lot of people realize that the civil service is in operation, but some of these positions fall directly under administration, which they are considered like exempt.
Exactly.
So they don't.
right.
They're not classified. They're considered unclassified, which means they work directly for the administration.
Well, and this
So
is
some
one
of
of the
those
things that we're
positions.
trying to get a change
Right.
for.
Well, bring attention to the matter
Correct.
to show people, hey, pursue the matter, file an application,
Mm-hmm.
and
that's
see
true.
if you can qualify. And we do have applicants.
That is true.
And I want to bring something else before you move on to Michelle. This total has risen to 693 employees because we now include the firefighters, as you well know, because we now have
Absolutely,
paid
yes.
firefighters.
Mhm.
So that kind of increased the thing. And then also our Port Harbor Internal District people are included in there, as well as employees in the district attorney's office.
Mhm.
And of course, we have some people that's kind of like in an iffy situation with the sheriff's department, whether they're employees of the sheriff's or whether they're employees of the parish government.
Well, this is
They
true.
appear on our government.
And we're hoping to get all of that cleared up soon. I'm
Right.
hoping we get the next item that was discussed, Kathleen, was the contract, or the lack of, for Riverside Recycling. They have been being paid since 2007 for, we don't know what reason they're given, but there is no contract. Their contract ended in 2006 and it was not renewed by the council, but yet they've been continued to be paid. Approximately $700,000 has been paid without
Wow.
a contract. So at this meeting, the audit committee unanimously voted to defund Riverside Recycling till further investigation. And hopefully it'll be introduced at this next council meeting on June 14th. So that's where we stand right now with Riverside not having a contract.
Well, actually, another thing that Councilman Turner, as I said earlier, he's the chairman for the audit committee. He asked our Mr. Peoples, who's our internal auditor, to give him what's been spent so far for this year.
Mhm.
And I have the document right here before me, and the report says that thus far they've been paid $34,031.42. And as you
Well, that's
mentioned,
for the 2012,
right.
okay.
So in addition to the fact, 700,000.
approximately.
And
Correct.
now we got to add that to this. So that's another 34,000. How do we have no clue how many other invoices may be pending?
Correct.
And again, who's authorizing that?
Well,
we
I was
have
going to
the-
say
yeah.
that's one of the biggest things. Whoever authorized the payment,
Right.
which is considered an illegal payment, can be held personally responsible for reimbursements with interest for the amount that's been paid. Transparency was part of the discussion at the audit committee hearings, and Mr. Peoples, I did ask him if he had access to the financial department when they put numbers in and who it was being paid to and stuff, and he did assure me that he did. However, when we ask for certain documents or how things are laid out, he has to get that information.
Right.
So I think that there's a little bit of a problem. I don't know what it is, but I'm hoping that can be taken care of, so that way
Right.
Mr. Peoples can have access to him, what he needs to give us the information and give the council the information that they need about the budget.
So we would have to say in general, just generally speaking, when none of us here are lawyers, but we would have to assume that these are illegal payments.
That is what the language reads as far as payments without a contract for the parish.
Oh, this is a serious matter.
Yes, it is.
And a great deal of money.
A big deal of money. So we will continue to keep, Mr. Peoples will keep us updated with that.
Well, very
and
good.
I hope that he will have some answers for us.
Well, we're probably going to have another. We have meetings for the audit committee like once a month. So
Correct.
the other one was on May 29th. So before the end of this month, we should have an update.
Right. The other thing that we did ask him was about the coding the expenditure codings. We went to look up some information.
Right.
The codes were different, and that's how you follow the budget. For people who don't know, there's certain codes that are for each department and each expenditure.
Right. It's called a chart of accounts.
Exactly. So if you're going to change the codes,
Right.
I think they can inform the council. they have to inform the council. If they inform the council, they have to inform the public, so we know exactly what we're looking at. We found a code that had no meaning until we were asked,
Right.
and then he provided that information.
Well, as a matter of
so-
fact, Michelle, I made the phone call to the finance
That's
department.
right, you sure did.
And
You did.
I said, I can't find this, and I'm not saying that I'm a genius in the financial section, but it was just
Well,
strange that I couldn't find it.
Again,
So
it's
I'm wondering-
transparency.
Again,
It's
accountability
transparency.
and transparency. But the thing is this too, Michelle. I mean, the council's going to get ready soon to start another budget
Correct.
review,
Mhm.
and they're going to be lost,
Well-
and so will the public.
Well, being lost is one thing, but if you're gonna go ahead and approve another budget and try to get that budget, don't you think one has to know where they come from before they can move forward?
That sounds logical.
Okay, so that's where we're at right now. So
Okay,
hopefully
good.
Mr. Peoples will be able to provide those
Well,
answers
let's hope
for us
so.
at this point.
And soon.
And very soon.
I mean, how is anybody, the council or the general public, if they're following an expenditure through, particularly on an item that's in their area, in their district, they couldn't even tell you, how much has been spent, because on our review, what's at the library for the public to view, we look there and all we have is an adopted budget. We don't have any amendments.
Right.
We don't show any expenditures from January 1 of 2012 to currently.
Well, I think too what a big problem is that we all know we're hurricane. We need our levees, we need our roads, we need protection.
Right.
So we want to be able to feel confident in our government and financial department that we know that the monies are being spent for that.
Right.
So if we have no accountability, how can we feel secure that it's going to be used properly if we don't even know where or which department it's going into? So, I say we give him a chance. I know things have been somewhat hurried for him and there's a lack of help. I know he did say that he could use more hands. So I'm hoping that Mr. Peoples will come up with those answers for us, and I know he's trying. So
Well, there's a big whopping 2 people employed in the audit department, and I can't even tell you the number of people in the finance department. I'd have to review the record for that, but he's right.
He
With
does.
2 people, I mean, it's just
needs
not
more help.
possible.
Absolutely.
Even though now we're supposed to be on that new computer system software they bought back in 2010, it was supposed to be operational, but in fact, they don't even have it fully operational. What they're doing is running dual records right now. So, I'm sure that's causing some confusion for him and delays for him
It
also.
is.
you
But
know.
we'll get back to Mr. Peoples, and I'm sure he'll have some answers for us. The hospital board meeting, Kathleen, was held at the Bell Chase Library on May 31st, 2012 at 6 p.m. Present was Tyrone Edwards, Jimmy Capella, Bonnie Thomas, Mina Marinovich, Chetta McBride, who was the recording board secretary, and Andrea Schubert, Tommy Fricky, and absent was Marianne Bro. The first item up on the agenda was Jens Nielsen, who is a representative of All South Engineering Consulting. He gave an update on the progress of the new facility. He informed us that the demolition of the old facility and installation of the wood drains at the new facility was 50% complete. Once this phase is complete, that they will begin to add fill to the site, and that it will approximately take 6 months for all of the settlement to happen before they can start driving the pylons. Tyrone Edwards at that time did state that all of the asbestos and the windows and all the old, dangerous parts of the hospital with chemicals and stuff were being moved out at this time, and the place was being abated and swept.
So really, they don't even have one piling down yet because they have to put the fill and then wait for it to settle.
That is correct. That's what
So
Mr. Nielsen
it's a
said.
process.
Yes. Then the board asked for a motion and took a vote to have Councilman Turner to be moved up in the agenda, as he had to be at another meeting with the Corps of Engineers shortly after he left this meeting. Councilman Turner proceeded to hand out to the board copies of the Public Records Request law. He then went to the podium, and his concerns were that he had requested copies of the minutes of the hospital board meetings, as he had never received any since 2007 till present. He wanted the minutes. Apparently, 6 weeks prior to this, when he requested it, nothing ever transpired. He never got a response. So that's what he was addressing at the podium. We have a clip of Mr. Capella's reply to Mr. Turner.
When y'all pass an ordinance that authorizes you to ask us for the minutes, we're gonna give them to you anyhow, but we don't have extra people on the payroll to make these copies. He came in and asked for copies, we gave them to him because he paid for them. We don't have any problem. Our minutes are posted in the Gazette every month. And if you're really interested in what's going on, I'm sure you read them every month.
Mina Marinovich stated that she had made a proposal last year to provide the council members with a copy of the minutes of the meeting. Councilman Turner asked who sends them out. Mr. Capella's reply was,
Paper that high. We don't have anybody sitting around like y'all do, not doing anything. We got people that are designated for certain jobs, and that's all they do.
wait till you hear what else he said.
Wanted all these minutes. You know, where have you been at for the last 4 years? We've been having meetings every month. And they published in the paper, they published public record.
Mr. Capella's next statement was even more incredible, Michelle.
Publicly. That wouldn't be a problem. First of all, this is a state board. This is not a parish board. We go by state law on this board.
Well, Mr. Capella, even state boards and state agencies have to honor and follow the public records request in this state. Mr. Capella also suggested to Mr. Turner to have Benny, which we're assuming is
Benny Roussel? Oh, okay.
make him copies as he has, and I quote, one of those scanner things. Not to mention, Councilman Turner, we don't have the money to accommodate your request and that someone would have to pay for them. Mr. Capella also states a number of times, and I quote, we have nothing to hide. Then Mina Marinovich interjects and says, Mr. Turner, have you not been getting the minutes? Maybe you should check with your office staff to see if they've been misplaced. Mr. Turner assured her that had not been the case, but that he would check with his staff to see if that is what took place with the documents. At that time, Mr. Turner addresses all of the questions and statements that Mr. Capella had made to him. First one being that it was none of his business where he had been for the last 6 months. 2, he had also pointed out that Mr. Capella's comments to him were very insulting, offensive, and disrespectful. And 3rd, he addressed that, and I quote, that it is indeed illegal to ask someone what they want to do with their public records request.
Well, that is true, Michelle. I can tell you from reading that law before, the only question that a person can really ask you is, are you to prove if you're 18 years old and older.
Exactly, and that's what Mr. Turner, Councilman Turner, was pointing out.
Good.
Once again, Ms. Schubert also quoted, we have nothing to hide. Ms. Lincoln made a motion to give the minutes to Mr. Turner. It passed. Mr. Capella goes on to say to Councilman Turner that he has nothing against him and that he would like to have input from him time to time and that his door is always open. Councilman Turner then made one other request, and that was to be provided with a copy of all the contracts pertaining to the new facility, or any contracts that they would sign from here on out.
That's reasonable.
Well, I think it's a reasonable request. Councilman Turner says many times that he can and will send help to get these documents. Tyrone Edwards, board member, tells Mr. Turner, we're doing more for you than your own administration does. And again, Mr. Turner said that he would accommodate and help to get these copies, and he would send over his assistant to make that happen.
Well, what's he meaning by that exactly? The administration.
I don't know exactly what he meant. I'm assuming that he meant that his own administration doesn't help him as much as what the board is going to do by accommodating his request.
I got you.
That's my assumption. That was not said.
Right.
Mr. Turner's next question to this board is the $1.3 million a hard number for the facility? Is it going to stay at that number? The board replies yes, unless it's amended. So Councilman Turner then asked, how much has All South been paid up to date? Their reply was that they have spent $446,000 and they're 30% complete of the entire project. But Mr. Capella says FEMA's paying for this facility, not the parish.
Wait a minute, Michelle. That's almost $500,000 for 30% of the work. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. That's what he said in the meeting. Again, Councilman Turner asked, will you hold their feet to the fire for the $1.3 million? Making not to go over that $1.3 million.
Because at the rate they're going right now,
it would be over that. So Mr. Edwards says, to reiterate, to back up what the question that was being asked is that we want to make sure that they deliver under commitment to hold to that $1.3 million and that they won't go over that. So Mr. Edwards then says that we want to make sure that that is delivered to them, to the hospital. Mina Marinovich then goes on to say how very pleased she is with All South and that she hasn't had any disappointments from them whatsoever. 30% complete. I don't know how, you base that, but that's what was her comment.
And right at $500,000. So I don't understand that, but anyway.
Exactly. On behalf of the Plaquemines Pulse, I asked if All South was going to be held responsible for their contractors' work, as we know they are the engineers who are overseeing the project. My own skepticism comes from the lack of the language in the parish contracts with All South concerning the Boothville Community Center specifically, and the repairs that need to be done, and All South is not held responsible for those as per the parish contract. So I was simply asking, was the same language in the hospital contract?
It's something like a whole homeless agreement you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
In fact, Barry Colligan approaches the board and states that he had paid for his documents, but there was no change order in his papers when he received them. You should have, Mr. Capella told him, you should have any change orders, you should have it. And he says, but they're not here in my copy, so where are they? No one could answer him.
Wait a minute. I'm a little confused here. Does that mean that the original contract did not include the change order?
We're not sure, because Mr. Colligan goes on to say that he has a copy of the original contract, which was dated on April the 6th. However, 5 days later, another contract was given to them. We're not sure which one is actually active or executed, which one was signed, and that's what Mr. Colligan was trying to get some clarity on.
Did he?
No, he did not.
Okay.
There was no clarity on that. Mr. Capella randomly states at this point, I'm going to tell you right now, if we did anything illegal or unethical, you can have our attorney's card, and you can pick it up from here and contact him with any questions.
And who's that? Who's their attorney?
The card read Charles Ballet.
Oh, that's
true. So
right,
the card
because the district attorney's office represents the hospital board.
The hospital board. So Mr. Colligan went on to say, after he couldn't get an answer on a clarity on the contract, that the initial contract was for $1,396,740. It shall not exceed. Well, he was asking about the whole homeless clause, like you were saying,
right.
Unless, and underneath there it said that it can only be amended by Plaquemines Parish. However, the only signature on behalf of the hospital board on the contract is Mr. Jimmy Capella. So I'm not.
Unless amended by Plaquemines Parish, you mean the hospital board?
Yes,
okay.
that's
okay.
That's how the language read.
It's worded. Okay.
Mr. Capella also states that the board is in charge of this project, and they're also in charge of all of the All South contracts. So at this point, Mr. Turner asks, from here on out, we would like a copy of all the contracts. I think it's fair.
Yes.
So it is public record. So that request was made. They said that they would grant that request and let him have copies of that. Mr. Capella also went on to say that mistakes are made, millions of mistakes are made, and that All South has went above and beyond for them. In fact, he said that All South went out and found another $9 million. For what? I'm not clear. But he did make that statement, so they have went above and beyond. It was his statement. So they seem to be very pleased with All South. Like, again, my skepticism was just to make sure that the language held them responsible, but it seems that it does not say that indeed, but we're not sure which contract was executed. So we're trying to get some clarity. We're going to get some clarity on that as well.
We're going to review and just check the wording.
Yes, Mr. Capella did not have a copy of the amendment to the contract. Mr. Colligan offered to make him a copy of it. Mr. Capella said, I don't need a copy, and Mr. Edwards said he has one. And that was the end of that.
So the amendments are included in the second contract from the way I understand it.
That's what I understood today.
And so it appears that the board is really satisfied that they're paying that amount of money with only 30% work. I must be missing something here.
Well, I think the way the questioning went, and because it was pieced together, I think that we need to get some clarity on that, which we are going to make a public records request for that information. Mm-hmm. And also, the next thing that they did was they had the financial report. Now, I'm not sure who came to deliver the financial report because he was never introduced. He sat with his back towards the audience, and the papers were not handed out to the public, and the talk had no microphone, so we could not hear what was being said during this time.
So basically, if anybody in the audience wanted to ask a question
There was
or
they didn't no.
have some input, they really couldn't really understand the conversation
We
because they couldn't hear it.
We couldn't hear the
I
conversation.
got you.
So at this point, we just figured we would do a public records request, and we would get the financial statement, and we would go from there. So we could put all of our documentation together, and then try to piece together
Well,
all
that's-
of the information.
That's a
what we
smart
need.
thing to do.
The next thing that was discussed was transportation for the elderly and the indigent people. What agencies they would use for the vehicles. They stated 3 different companies. They never used their names. They then discussed about the bylaws. Did anybody have changes, additions,
Right.
amendments?
Did they?
And it was deferred.
Oh, okay.
And then Mr. Capella went on to talk about the groundbreaking, that at that time there was no date then. We now know Monday the 25th at high noon is going to be the groundbreaking. They amended the contract for the air condition. All voted yes. The meeting was adjourned. So that was it. It was no new business, and they sat around talking, and the meeting was over. So we left.
They had no executive session either.
No executive session.
Oh.
They didn't feel like doing that. Was there?
Oh, I see.
So that was it. And we didn't even know it was the end of the meeting. We sat there because no one moved.
Oh, I see.
So they said adjourned, and we're going to take up business where the next meeting's going to be, and we'll show up for that one, and we'll have our questions ready.
I think we
did.
We know that's on the 28th.
Yes, we did.
Which is a Thursday, but that's going to be at Port South at the YMCA.
Right.
Okay, good.
So we will be in attendance there. Also, too, we would like to make a little announcement.
Right. If anybody needs help obtaining any type of public record, the Plaquemines Post will be happy to walk you through the process.
To help you get what you need. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us through Facebook, our email address, which is plaquepost@gmail.com, and the phone number 504-228-2291, and we'll be glad to help you walk through any process that you're having difficulty with in the parish.
Well, that's very good.
I think so. The council meeting, Kathleen, was very eventful to say the least.
I'd agree with that.
Yes, so start off the council. It started right before 4 p.m. The meeting started late due to a scheduling conflict with Judge Clement's juvenile court. Councilmen Hinckley and Cooper were absent from the meeting, as was Parish President Nungesser. At approximately 3:54 p.m., the council went into executive session, but neglected to read the items into the official record that were to be discussed in that session. However, when the council returned from executive session, Chairman Marinovich stated that no final and binding action was taken. Chairman Marinovich admitted he neglected to read the executive session items before commencing with the session, and then the items were read into the record. Of interest in executive session were 2 lawsuits entitled Levy Materials LLC and the Livaday Company versus Plaquemines Parish Government et al. If you remember, the lawsuits were brought by the plaintiffs because the parish wouldn't give Levy Materials and the Livaday Company a borrow pit permit.
There was no parish president in attendance, so therefore there was nobody to give the president's status report, and no reason was given for his absence. A presentation was given by the Plaquemines Post concerning conflicts of interest per the parish charter. We'll show you this presentation later on in the show during our feature story. However, our presentation did seem to ruffle a few feathers and received quite a few supporting comments from the audience members, even though the council refused to once again apply the charter as written. The council then moved on to building permits, where a borrow pit permit was issued to Levy Materials LLC and the Livaday Company to build a new borrow pit in Scarsdale, Louisiana, which we all know is located on the east bank of Plaquemines Parish. It looks like, Michelle, some binding action was taken in the executive session if they gave Levy Materials LLC and the Livaday Company their borrow pit permit, because wasn't that the subject of the litigation?
Yes, it was, Kathleen.
Okay.
It was, and it was quite the discussion on this later on in this meeting. If you remember, the Plaquemines Post also did a story called Dirty Deeds on this very issue about a month ago, and we'll be doing a follow-up story sometime in the near future.
Well, that's good.
St. Clair was also discussed because they also issued a borrow permit to them for the East Bank. The vote was 6-1 with District 3 voting against. Prior to the vote, there was some discussion about the applicant having a bond. Several audience members addressed the council regarding future borrow pits and making sure the council enforces their borrow pit ordinances the right way. In fact, Councilman Griffin is obviously tired of the discussion, and it looks like he had something
all
better
night
to
long
do.
on this. So why don't we just move on and just table it? Not table it. Let's just go on and vote on this thing and get it over. We got a long agenda here. I got to get out here at 7:30 myself. Now, if I leave, you might not have a quorum. So you can sit here and play all these games all night, but I'm
Prior
leaving
to
here
the
at
vote,
7:30.
an audience member and Councilman Turner's administrative assistant appropriately chided the attitude of Councilman Griffin and the council.
As a resident of this parish, I think the attitude should be left outside, even from the opposite side of the table. Okay, if we can be respectful to you guys, I think council members should be respectful to the audience. If you have somewhere to go, maybe you shouldn't have showed up from the beginning. But if you're gonna take that attitude, you're gonna say that.
Thank you, Ms. Audrey.
You know,
I don't want to be chastised. I get
No,
enough
let her
educated,
finish
I
her
promise you.
conversation.
Okay.
Let her finish her conversation. Let her finish her comments.
but I mean, it's insulting for council members to take the attitude that maybe I'm gonna be out here at 7 o'clock. How are you gonna take that attitude and make those type of comments publicly? You're representing the public.
I understand, Ms. Audrey. Thank you.
As you can see from the clip, even the council chairman took attitude towards the speaker and interrupted her several times while she was addressing the council. If you have the opportunity to watch the council meeting, you'll see and hear attitude and an overall snippiness addressed at the council members and audience members.
District 6 councilman gave up his airtime to Gulf Restoration Network, who offered brief comments about the proposed RAM Terminals LLC project to be built within the footprint of the approved LCA Myrtle Grove sediment diversion. The GRN believes there is a conflict with the state's coastal master plan between the proposed coal terminal and the coastal restoration project at Myrtle Grove. The terminal would leach coal runoff containing heavy metals, PAHs, sulfides into the marshes that could be built with the project and compromising it. The project needs to have within the public notice an alternative analysis justifying why this place was chosen for the coal
I
terminal.
know, wouldn't it seem like that's a lot of chemicals that are being, that they have to have a lot more testing?
Truly. Of concern to the parish are the health effects of coal dust to the parish and to the air and to the residents that might breathe the air. Breathing these particulates could cause problems to the heart, lungs, and other parts of the body. Councilman Turner announced he is in opposition to the new coal terminal coming into the parish, as there is already a coal terminal in the area and this would just compound matters. The current coal terminal is working with the parish to mitigate any issues, and another coal terminal would hem in the residents in that area.
I wonder what they mean by they're trying to mitigate. Are they trying to, I know what mitigate means, are they trying to decide whether or not they're going to put it in that area? Because that's not fair to the people who live in that particular zone to have both chemicals from two plants compounded upon them.
That's very true. A resolution for discussion only, indicating the intention of the parish and the state of Louisiana to proceed with the financing of an amount not to exceed $65 million to finance the planning, acquisition, construction, and improvements of specific drainage and coastal restoration projects and related infrastructure in the parish approved by the council and included in the coastal restoration plan.
Does that mean levies?
I asked that question actually, Michelle, at the podium.
Right.
And there was no answer. They said, we're going to defer it. And it's going to appear on the June 14th council meeting this Thursday coming. So that would
Let's
be
see
great.
if they have an answer for us.
That's true. Let's hope so. And then there was an ordinance to establish a 6-month moratorium, which was indeed approved, 6-1, with District 4 voting no on the borrow pits right after the St. Clair and Levy Materials Limited Company borrow pits were issued. Chairman Marinovich mentioned that the purpose of the borrow pit moratorium was necessary to rewrite the current borrow pit ordinance to make sure it could not be challenged again and again be ruled unconstitutional. Several audience members noted that the council had just issued a borrow pit permit and approved the application of the Limited Company, a company that is owned by Judge Robert Cleese, the same judge that ruled our borrow pit ordinance unconstitutional. The same judge who had a pending Board Pit application before this council at the time of his 2010 decision against the Plaquemines Parish Council. Chairman Marinovich invited those in opposition to file a complaint with the appropriate authorities. The council also approved the re-subdivision of the property of Parish President Nungesser. Councilman Duras advised that an ethics opinion was obtained by Mr. Nungesser's personal attorney. The ordinance passed with Mr. Turner and Mr. Lapine voting against it. The council passed 2 resolutions stating their endorsement of Stothaven New Orleans LLC's and Environmental Safety and Health Consulting Services Incorporated participation in the Louisiana Enterprise Zone program. Now, we all know what that's about, Michelle. That's strictly,
Correct.
Tax incentives and so forth. And also, a very important thing that it talks about is that the fact is that they're supposed to present to us, how many people they're going to employ that are Plaquemines Parish residents.
Exactly. Once again, we're back to that issue.
Yes, we are.
The council approved an extension of the cooperative endeavor agreement between the Plaquemines Parish government and the Plaquemines Parish Care Center Foundation for the provision of crisis care counseling and advocacy services. 6CC was a resolution offered by Mr. Gouy to approve the selection of Providence Engineering Company as the consultant for CBBG Disaster Recovery Project for the Parish Recovery Planning Capacity Building Program. After some discussion, the resolution was approved 5-0, with Councilman Turner abstaining from the vote. Next, at 6NN, a resolution was passed 6-0, providing for final approval for the expansion of the Southern Oak Mobile Home Community on East 3rd Avenue in Belchase. 6LL was a resolution to certify the administration's declaration of the existence of a public emergency and authorizing the administration to follow the provisions of Louisiana Revised Statute 38-2212D of the Public Bid Law in connection with Phase 1 of Wave Breaker System for Cat Island Brown Pelican Reserve. Due to the imminent threat of the total destruction of the Cat Island Brown Pelican Reserve because of the approaching hurricane season, Councilman Turner expressed concerns that the sole purpose of this legislation was to circumvent the public bid laws, and that if losing the island is that much of an emergency, it should have been done a long time ago, which makes sense.
Yes.
Byron Williams, the Director of Public Service, spoke up. However, it was hard to hear him as he did not turn on his microphone. The resolution was passed 6-1, with the no vote being cast by District 6.
And Michelle, item 6MN was basically the same emergency as 6LL that you just read, except the project was for Phase 1 of the Bureau's Stabilization and Restoration of Shoreline Project due to CIAP funding expiring on September 30th. This gives Mr. Nungesser the right to circumvent the public bid law. However, Mr. Marinovich advised that this was his baby, and there is no attempt to make this a non-transparent item or legislation. The resolution passed 7-0. Mr. Griffin, Councilman Griffin, left the meeting at 7:30 before the meeting ending. A proclamation was issued declaring May 10th, 2012, Master Chief Kathleen Zolodek Day in Plaquemines Parish. Ms. Zolodek has been in the Navy since 1988. The proclamation was issued at the request of her commander, but unfortunately, Master Chief had to leave before the issuance of the proclamation. The meeting was adjourned at 7:34 p.m. The Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District was called to order at 7:35 p.m. No executive session, no report by the port manager. Items 6A, B, C, D, and E, and F were also deferred. 6G was a resolution to settle a collection lawsuit that was discussed in executive session during the last meeting, which was settled for $42,500 in the parish's favor. The resolution passed 6-0. The Port Harbor and Terminal District meeting was adjourned at 6:38 p.m.
And now for our feature story. As we mentioned on our previous episode, the following preamble was read and introduced at the May 10th, 2012 council meeting. Item 6V, distributed 2 days prior to the May 10th, 2012 council meeting, did not reveal who the insurance company was that would write the renewals on the reference policies that were set to expire on June 1st, 2012. In fact, it was not even revealed who would write the insurance renewal in the body of the resolution, nor was the contract attached to the resolution. The public learned who would write the renewals when the insurance company representatives
Name and
approached
address
the
for the
podium.
record, sir.
Jay Lotridge, Dahl Insurance, 3636 Lake Kristen Drive.
And Ryan Dahl, Dahl Insurance Agency, which is 94 West Bank Expressway, Gretna.
The council voted 7-0 to renew the insurance. After the council's vote, we were able to obtain a few documents to bring the possibility of a conflict to the council's attention. The council listened and immediately moved to reconsider the vote on 6V, which nullified their earlier vote to award the renewal. The item was then deferred to the May 24, 2012 meeting. The Plaquemines Pulse was invited to make a presentation at the May 24, 2012 meeting regarding the possibility of a conflict between Mr. Nungesser and the insurance providers. Here it is. There were some questions after the last meeting on the material, the information, the public documents about being outdated or wrong information. So we wanted to present this to show you that it wasn't outdated. Everything that we have is public documents. Anybody can get this if you want to get it. It's all available to you. So it's nothing that we, that anyone else can't get. What this is, the first slide is obviously a copy of the charter for Plaquemines Parish, the book. The parish charter, Article 304, prohibitions reads, and it's very important for D, the parish president shall not contract with any person, firm, or corporation with whom he is associated in business or which he is a member or shareholder. This is President Nungesser's registration of Ocean Chef Catering, LLC, on 7/7/2004 that is located at 2911 Engineers Road. Billy Nungesser was elected parish president in 2006. He was sworn in 2007. He also owns business with JB3G Properties, LLC, which was formed on 4/19/2007. Pelican Marine Supply was formed with J. Lotridge, Jerry Dahl, and Point Celeste Inter Vivos Trust on 7/26/2007. You can see the names are circled in red. The notice of the lease between JB3G Properties and Pelican Marine, and it was a lease where they loaned, just the lease of the two companies is signed by J. Lotridge on the bottom right there. Mr. Nungesser in 2008, on his personal financial disclosure, disclosed that he was 100% beneficiary for the irrevocable trust that he has, Point Celeste In Vitro Trust, and also has these three companies on Addendum A, which is shown right here, listed, Ocean Chef Catering, LLC, which he owns 40% of, JB3G LLC, which also he owns 40% of, and Pelican Marine Supply LLC, 40% interest in. This is his 2009 financial disclosure, where he also discloses that he also has 100% interest in as beneficiary to these three, to the trust in these three companies as well on Addendum A. This is his financial disclosure where he did not file on time the Addendum A, where it lists the three companies. It was after a complaint was made to the Ethics Committee that 2 years later it was filed. And those three companies, again, are on his Addendum A, disclosed on the schedule, but it was 2 years after it was supposed to be filed. This is his 2010 financial disclosure, again, where he discloses that he is 100% beneficiary to the trust with Addendum A with the three companies, Pelican, Ocean Chef, and JB3G as 40% interest. This is when his trust, Point Celeste In Vitro Trust, loaned JB3 Properties $500,000, and it is signed by Mr. Lotridge. Ocean Chef, I'm sorry. His financial statement from 2011 shows his name and his address as Billy Nungesser, 2911 Engineers Road. That is the address of Pelican Marine and Ocean Chef and JB3. This is a copy of the trust that was filed for a motion to modify his trust on 12/7/2011. It was filed on behalf of William Nungesser right there. And here it shows where the trust was formed on 12/28/2006. So in 2006, the trust was drawn up. The next one here, the Louisiana law states, and it is noted in the document, the proper court may order the termination or modification of a trust in whole or part if the continuance of the trust unchanged would defeat or substantially impair the purpose of the trust. It is also noted in the motion to modify trust in paragraph 2 that the trust was created for the purpose of avoiding any ethical conflicts of interest of Mr. Nungesser while he served as Plaquemines Parish President. Paragraph 5 of the motion references paragraph 5 of the trust that includes the provision that reads, the trustee shall pay to the settler the net income derived from the trust estate then or therefore constituting Schedule A property. Such payments of net income shall be made by the trustee at such times, not necessarily at the same times, and in such amounts as he deems appropriate, but at least quarterly, either directly or by deposit to a checking or savings account in the name of the settler, Mr. Nungesser. On January 26, 2012, Judge Clement issued an order to modify the trust. The comparison is on the screen. What I just read you was the language from the original trust. The language from the modified version on 1/26/2012 reads, the trustee shall pay to the settler, Mr. Nungesser, the net income derived from the trust estate then or theretofore constituting Schedule A property. Such payments of net income should not be made by the trustee until the trust terminates pursuant to the provisions hereof.
Excuse me, Ms. Wilcox. I want to make sure I followed that piece. There was, so initially, because everything we were told, I know I was told, and I believe other members were told, was that everything was in a blind trust. But you're telling me that the initial trust was set up that he would be receiving quarterly payments, and just this year, they have changed it so that he wouldn't be receiving quarterly payments. Is that correct?
That is correct. As usual, the council refused to apply the charter.
Oh.
The vote was 5-2 with Lapine and Turner voting against the renewal. Just prior to the vote, Marinovich said he did not see a conflict or a violation, but did opine that there may be an ethical violation from last year or the previous years. Council Chairman Marinovich invited anyone to file an ethical complaint with the Ethics
The way I
Board.
understand is these companies are being winded down, disassembled, and sold off the assets, and there'll be no companies. These three companies will be non-existent.
That's my understanding from the various
Okay.
shareholders, yes.
So my understanding is today is if we vote on this insurance today, I wouldn't see a violation because these companies are basically almost non-existent as we speak.
Well, go ahead.
Okay?
Sure.
Now, to refer back to what Mr. Turner says and what Ms. Wilcox says, I'm not going to be the judge of this, but there may be some ethical violation or something from last year or the year before, and that's something I would certainly encourage anybody to address with the Ethics Board or whatever. But as I see this today, if I'm not mistaken, I don't see a violation today on the contract that we're voting on today. That's my
We
opinion.
think Councilman Turner said it best.
Yes, Mr. Marinovich, you know, and I disagree with you respectfully so. I disagree
okay.
with you in that, you know, it might be going through the process of being dissolved. The fact that it exists, we have to deal with it. You know, it's something that's current today. They are in business together, regardless of how innocent it might be. Again, this is not an attack, definitely not an attack on the insurance company who's giving us a lower rate than anyone else. You know, but again, it's a matter of us following our charter, and I believe that according to the charter, it's a violation. And just because it will be dissolved, come on, think about the words we're using. It's in effect today. And because it's in effect today, to allow the parish president or the administration to do business with a company that he's in business with or has a business relationship association with it, I believe is illegal
We
according
agree,
to the
Mr.
charter.
Turner. Kind of like being divorced. It's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. You file for divorce, it takes months to a year to get a divorce. My question is it legal to get married until your divorce is final, or do you get married while the process is happening? I think you wait till the divorce is final, and in this case, it's the same thing.
But wait, there's more. Remember in 2010, during the oil spill, and again in 2011 when Mr. Nungesser was running for lieutenant governor, the parish president and a candidate, Mr. Nungesser, was often questioned about his marina that was contracted by BP during the oil spill, and many believed and questioned that this was a potential conflict of interest. It seems that the Ethics Board may agree with you. In March of this year, Parish President Charlotte Randolph of Lafourche Parish, Michelle, was charged with violating the state ethics laws because of her company, Randolph Publications, a company owned by President Randolph and her husband, when she entered into a lease agreement leasing their personal camp in Grand Isle to BP. President Randolph's conflict and subsequent ethics charge is a result of the Lafourche Parish entering into a $1 million agreement with BP on May 11th, the same day Plaquemines Parish government did.
Of course. Randolph Publications entered into a lease with BP on June 18, 2010, after she self-reported her lease with BP in 2010. Randolph was charged with the violation of 4211C2D, which states, no public servant, no legal entity in which the public servant exercises control or owns an interest in excess of 25% shall receive anything of economic value for or in consideration or rendered to or for any person during his public service unless his services are neither performed for nor compensated by any person for whom such public servant would be prohibited by revised statute 115 A, 1, or B from receiving a gift. Just like Randolph, Nungesser's Marina, Myrtle Grove Marina, entered into a lease with BP just a few weeks earlier. If you remember, Mr. Nungesser's Myrtle Grove Marina lease with BP was a sore subject during the oil spill and during his campaign for lieutenant governor. President Nungesser has been quoted as saying,
by the way, Michelle, not only did BP use Myrtle Grove Marina for stage for the oil spill, BP also did improvement to Nungesser's Marina by adding new permanent piers to the marina. Now keep in mind what we told you earlier about the parish charter prohibitions. This time, let's take a look at the Plaquemines Parish Charter, Article 304C. President Nungesser's personal financial disclosure that he filed with the Louisiana Board of Ethics in 2008, 2009, 2010, and 2011 revealed that he owns a 50% interest in Myrtle Grove Marina, and that the Myrtle Grove Marina is in his Point Celeste Inter Vivos Trust, and that he and he alone holds the 100% beneficiary interest irrevocable trust, which controls interest in companies that are listed in our addendums.
correct. Now here's the catch to all of this. As we pointed out in our presentation to the council on May 24th, and bears repeating here, William H. Nungesser, as settler of Point Celeste Inter Vivos Trust, filed a motion to modify his much talked about trust on December the 7th, 2011. According to the motion, it was created for the purpose of avoiding any ethical conflicts of interest of Nungesser while he serves as parish president. The motion cites Louisiana Revised Statute 920261. The proper court may order the termination or modification of a trust in whole or in part if the continuance of the trust unchanged would defeat or substantially impair the purposes of the trust. The language Mr. Nungesser seeks to modify is this. In English, this little bit of language reveals that the trustee shall pay to Mr. Nungesser the net income derived from the trust estate listed at least quarterly by deposit to a checking or savings account in the name of Mr. Nungesser. The question is, why did Nungesser seek to modify his trust? Why did Judge Clement authorize that modification?
So what's the truth, Mr. Nungesser? Your trust, where it states you shall be paid from your trust directly to you, at least quarterly, or your comments made during your campaigns for parish president and lieutenant governor, that you have not, made any money off of your trust, not to mention the improvements made to your personal property by someone who has a contract with Plaquemines Parish. What is the truth? So now the question, why hasn't the ethics board done something?
We won't even ask why the council hasn't done anything.
Sure.
So by the way, we did call Mr. Nungesser for a comment on our story. Actually, Kathleen called him on behalf of the Post. I'll let her tell you what his comment was.
Well, first of all, I had to go through his assistant. That's fine and dandy. And about an hour or two later, Mr. Nungesser's assistant called me and said that, and I quote, she said, Mr. Nungesser refuses to answer any of our questions, and that Mr. Nungesser said...
Wait, I'm sorry, refuses to answer any of our questions about, we specifically asked him to ask it about the trust and the conflict with VP and the contract with Myrtle Grove Marina. So let me clarify that.
Well, that's
okay?
true.
So, right.
Well, thanks for that,
Okay.
Michelle. And that Mr. Nungesser said this, that our show is counterproductive for the entire parish. Well, Mr. Nungesser, we couldn't disagree with you more. We believe in transparency and accountability in this government. We believe in our charter, and we believe in telling the people of this parish the truth about the parish and the people we put in office.
Absolute truth, Kathleen. And now the crime report. This includes from May 15th to June the 12th.
So not even a month.
Not even a month.
Right. Well, it appears that, Michelle, there's been a lot of theft in our parish, parish-wide. For instance, we had 3 thefts in Venice and 1 theft of a vehicle. In Buras, we had 3 thefts. In Triumph, we had 1. In Empire, we had 1. Port Suffolk had 4 and 2 breaking and entering. This is serious. Oakville had 1 breaking and entering. Jesuit Bend had 2 thefts. Daviant had 1 robbery and 1 theft. Phoenix had 1 identity theft and 1 breaking and entry. Point Lash had 1 theft, and Belchase had 12. 12 thefts, 3 breaking and entry, and 1 theft from a vehicle. That's serious.
That's a lot of theft. I'm going to say it again. I know I made fun the first time. I didn't realize what I said, but that is a lot of theft going on in the parish, and we're hoping that it can all start to come and be controlled.
Oh, let's hope so.
I hope so. And now for the editorial. All right, so now for the upcoming events, Kathleen, give it to us.
Right. Well, the hospital board's having another meeting, which, as you know, is always at the last Thursday of the month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on June 28th at the Port Suffolk YMCA for 6 p.m. And if you want to look at the agenda, it's not posted online, I found out, but indeed you can view the agenda at the Sheriff's Office, at the courthouse, and at the District 6 Council building in Port Suffolk. And it's usually posted like 24 hours before the meeting. Right now, the other thing of interest to me, Michelle, and I'm sure to all of our residents here in Plaquemines Parish, the Sheriff's Office is going to conduct their proposed budget hearing on June the 18th at 10 o'clock in the morning at the business office at 302 Main Street. And the thing is, they're going to give us a summary report. But if anybody's interested in looking at all the detailed records, you need to go to the sheriff's office right on Main Street between 9 and 4:30, Monday through Friday, of course. And they will assist you with trying to explain it, because, you know, when you go to these budget hearings, you get like a summarization.
Correct.
So the sheriff's offering it to us. And of course, that's a hot topic, because we are wondering what indeed is transpiring that may be leftover material, invoices
Absolutely.
and payments from some obligations that our ex-sheriff Jeff Hinkle may have.
Right, correct.
You know, so we are kind of interested in seeing this, and we certainly are going to be there. We're going to go and review the records before this budget hearing. At present, we don't have the audit committee currently scheduled, but it will be before the end of this month.
Okay.
So that's another interesting thing, and we're always interested in following through all those meetings, because it directly affects all of our finances for the government, whether it's operational budget or capital
Well, let me
improvements.
say this while you're saying that about the meetings. We
Yeah.
are, as soon as our digital paper kicks off and the website is complete, we will be streaming the public meetings live on our paper. So you will be able to see. If you can't make the meeting, you'll be able to tune into Plaque Pulse, the paper, and you'll be able to watch the meeting. And if you don't see it while it's happening, we are going to store it on our paper, so you can go back and look at all the videos of each public meeting.
Well,
So that's something great we're bringing to
That
I
is
think
great,
it's something.
because if people can't make it, or
That's
they don't
correct.
have the time to watch it while it's streaming live, so is that going to include the audit committee meetings too?
Yes, it's going to
Hospital
include
board?
every public meeting that this parish has, that we go, and we're going to go to all of them, and we're going to live stream them from each one.
Well, that's great. We've never had that.
Nope, we have not, and it's very hard to get. I know people's computers sometimes take long to upload, that kind of stuff. With this, you can just log right on and watch it. If you can't, you know, we are going to be putting out DVDs in the newspaper for people who do not have the internet, and we will be distributing the DVDs parish-wide as well. So you can watch it on a DVD player in your house.
What a service to our residents.
I think it's long overdue. We would like to announce that our show, The Plaquemines Pulse, has received an overwhelming support with over 3,000 hits since we first aired our show just 12 weeks ago. As a result of our hard work on the show, we are launching a digital newspaper. Our first edition will be released on July 1st, 2012. The Plaquemines Pulse newspaper will reach the entire parish, East Bank, down the road, and Belchase area, all north, south, and East Bank. We look forward to continuing to work with you, for you, and continuing to inspire, inform, and include you. If you'd like to reach us in any way, you can reach us at plaquepulse@gmail.com or through our Facebook page. You also have my number that's on the Facebook page, which is 504-228-2291. If you have any tips, concerns, stories, or if you want to advertise with the Plaquemines Pulse online, please feel free to reach us at any of those three places.
That's some exciting news, Michelle.
It's very exciting. Since we've announced it, we've had a lot of response, and we have a lot of people wanting to advertise in our paper. So we're looking forward to some very busy days ahead, but very welcomed busy days. We want to get it out to the entire parish and let everybody know what's going on and have a voice.
Well, that's good.
Thank you, and have a good night.